Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 60 of the Cosmic Force. And on tonight's episode, we are going back to the High Republic to talk about Edge of Balance Volume 2. It's going to be a fun night tonight. We're also going to talk about what is on our weekly pull list and a non-spoilery little image that we had from today's episode of Kenobi. So we're going to have a fun time tonight, and let's go ahead and start introducing everybody. And we will start where we always do with Emma. Emma, now I believe you also were not here last week because you were busy doing some other things, correct?
That's right. Hey, everybody. It's good to be back. I started a new job last week, and the training happened to be on a Wednesday night. So while I was disappointed I couldn't be there, because I hate missing shows so much, I'm glad to have started, my new job and kind of got that rolling. And also been studying for my GRE, which for those that don't know, it's the graduate record exam. So that, some schools require it, like when you're applying to grad school. So I have that Sunday. Please pray for me. It's just a busy time for me. And, but yeah, I'm glad to be talking comics and kind of get my mind off of it a little bit. So.
Well, it must be a busy time for somebody else as well, because Caleb, somehow you haven't watched the season finale of Kenobi yet. Like, how is that even possible?
Because things got in the way. Like, I got home, I started watching. I took some headache medication. I started watching the episode. Got like 10 minutes in, and my wife was like, "Oh, it's time to eat." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I guess I should probably do that." So, and then once we did that, I'm like, "Oh no, it's time to set up my show." So I have to get my room kind of put together, make my bed, all like that. So it's good. Like the first 10 minutes were really good. I could talk about that.
Well, we're not gonna talk about too many spoilery things, because as Jared's in the chat tonight, and he says that he has also not seen Kenobi yet, so we won't talk about too many spoilers, but we'll share one image that's not plot spoiler in a second. But before we do that, let's check in with our last host of the day. Timothy, how are we doing tonight?
I am feeling all of the things, the highs and the lows that I can't get into.
Still feeling.
I'm still feeling. I'm good. I'm alive. I'm well. Kenobi was excellent. My cat has been good to me today. It's been a good day. It's been a good day.
And I believe I do see our fifth co-host in the background there, right?
He's hanging out with the Dringer back in the back. He's fending, he's saving me from the treachery that is them. So
there you go.
Well, if you are joining us for the first time, welcome. We are a Star Wars comics podcast that broadcasts live right here on youtube.com/Youtini every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. But if you can't join us live, that is quite all right, because we are also available on all of your favorite podcasting platforms. We are also part of the Youtini podcast network of shows and a Discord channel at youtini.com/Discord with more than 1,000 members and dozens of channels and topics to talk about. If you like what you see and you want to say thanks, then head on over to our Patreon channel at patreon.com/Youtini, where for as little as $5 a month, you can gain exclusive access to the entire Youtini podcast network of shows, as well as exclusive merch and community involvement activities. Emma, I don't see anybody here, but I do want to double check. Did we have any new patrons this week that we wanted to shout out?
No new patrons this week. But yeah, if you guys are new here and saw the High Republic and you're like, "Oh, I love the High Republic, let's see what this is all about," and you've never heard of us before, we do have a Patreon channel, patreon.com/Youtini, and you get exclusive shows. Tim, you run our Patreon. Do you want to tell them what you get?
Yeah, sure. Beginning at $5, you get access to all of our shows, and several of our shows a bit earlier. So like Star Wars Archives, for instance, there's been a lot of discussion in our Discord today about their like brief history of everything. It's one of my favorite things that we do at Youtini. Trev and Jose just absolutely kill it. And then at higher tiers, you get access to behind the scenes shows, exclusive shows that most folks don't get on the public channels. And then even higher up, you can get things like t-shirts and access to helping us shape the company and really cool things like that. So, and you can always just check it out for a month and then get what you want as much as you can, and then like bounce. And that's totally cool. So we have some folks jump in for a month and then leave, and maybe come back later as something else comes along that they're interested in. So whatever you want to do, we're all here for it.
Definitely. Great job, Timothy. I definitely put you on the spot there, but you killed it.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Totally fine.
Great plug.
I live in this space, so it's great.
Good. We love it.
All right, let's get into our weekly pull list. It's a short list this week, but it's a very important issue. Emma, what do we have on the pull list this week?
Yeah, there's been a lot of chatter about this one. I haven't read it yet, but I've heard a lot of good things. It is the 5th issue of Crimson Reign, called The Scarlet Queen, written by Charles Soule, pencils by Stephen Cummings, inks by Victor Olazaba, colors by Guru EFX, letters by Travis Lanham, and the cover by Lionel Francis Yu and Sunny Go. So, and by the way, we were talking about this before the show. This cover is just amazing. It's so good. And I mean, it's like, Kira's awesome, but this, kind of showing how she's like trying to play Vader in the series kind of as a whole. It's just good. It's just really good.
This gives me very much Queen's Gambit vibes, and like she is playing chess with Vader. I also haven't read it yet. I've got my Ario Onedito cover right back here.
Oh, very nice.
So I'm very excited to get into that later today. But yeah, I've had a good time with it.
Good, yeah, and Tyler, not to get us too off track here, but you said the Queen's Gambit. I haven't seen the Queen's Gambit, but I've heard that Moses Ingram is in it. Is this true?
She is in it. Yes, I actually did not realize that she was the same character. She plays a great supporting character in that show. Very, very integral part of the, I can't remember what the main character's journey. So yeah, she's great in that. I really loved her character in that. And of course we obviously love Moses Ingram as Reva and Kenobi. So lots of love for Moses Ingram from us. So all right, so yes, let's go ahead. We went through, I was listening to your cover. We went through all of the creative people on that book. Okay.
And by the way, as always, the link to purchase that is in the description below if you don't have it already.
All right, Caleb, what do we got this week for Art of the Week?
For this week's Art of the Week, this is from our Discord. This one came from user Diligent Sloth. This is from Han Solo number 1. It's just kind of a really nice splash page of Han Solo, his wheelings, dealings, him with Chewbacca. It's just really fun to see like barges and spaces and everything out there. This isn't the Han Solo and Chewbacca. This is the Han Solo one shot that was like him getting in a galactic wide race. It's kind of a really fun short series there, but the pencils and inks were by Mark Brooks and the colors were by Sonia Obak. Just a really intricate 2-page spread here. I'm glad we picked this one.
Yeah, definitely. This really caught my eye in our channel.
Yeah, this looks great. And I'm actually really glad that we picked Diligent Sloth's art here, because just before we went live, he actually put a very interesting question in our Star Wars Comics channel where he was asking, he said that he has got, I think he said 3 trade paperbacks left for the current run of Marvel. And he put a question out that I want to pose to all 3 of you. Does he go to the IDW and read some of the adventures, or does he take a stab at the Legends comics next once he gets caught up? So I'm gonna turn this question over to Caleb first.
Okay. So is he finishing the current 2020 run or the 2015 run? Do you say?
I think he just said he was catching up on canon. So his question was IDW or go back into Legends.
I would say go back into Legends almost as a palette cleanser. Like IDW is good, but a lot of it is kind of the same. By kind of going back into Legends, you can get some real wild stuff. Like you can get some real wild stuff. So like, and there's a lot of great series that are very short. Like I know if you're kind of tired of Vader, maybe not this one, but Darth Vader in a Ghost Prison, that's a really good one.
And the Ninth Assassin is also a good one.
Exactly. Tales of the Jedi, if you want some like weird 90s comic sort of stuff, like with Keller Atomic. I know Jared probably is going to kill me for that pronunciation, but there's a lot of really good stuff in there. So maybe look into Tales of the Jedi just so you can have like a completely different look at things.
All right. So your vote is to go to Legends. Timothy, what about you?
I would say to give Adventures another go.
Okay.
Especially now that I know it's impossible to find. So if you don't have them, I'm sorry, and may the force be with you. So maybe Legends is the play there. I've been trying to get into the X-Wing comics because I'm currently reading that series of books. So I'm trying to read those. I know there's like a prequel and all that, but Tales of the Jedi is next on my list after I finish X-Wing. So you may have a reading buddy if you give it a couple days.
Very nice. All right, Emma, what about you?
I personally was gonna vote for IDW just because I really enjoy those books. I think they're a lot of fun. Like Caleb said, sometimes they are the same. I mean, the thing I like about it is that you get a great mix of characters. Like you get to see more sequel trilogy characters than we ever get to see in the comics. You get I guess a more like diverse way of telling stories because you're not stuck to a single like plot point or an end goal. It's just kind of just for fun. So I think they're a ton of fun. I actually wouldn't be opposed to like, reading some legends and then to take a little breather, you read some IDW.
There's a lot of legends.
There's a lot of legends and like Caleb said, I mean, he's not wrong. They are crazy. So if you need something to just like mellow out, kind of what you're reading, throw some IDW in there. And the great thing about those is that there's no true order that you really have to read them in, and they don't really tie into a whole lot else. So you can honestly kind of start and stop them as you please. And so I think those are a great way to sort of break it up. But I personally love the IDW stuff, and like the Forces of Destiny trade is really good, and there's a lot of hidden gems in there, I would say. They're not all like fantastic.
Cav's horror series are great too.
Yes.
Yeah,
All the
Vader's
Vader's
Castle.
So good.
Yeah.
So my vote was going to be do High Republic adventures first, because I mean the High Republic is knocked out of the park. I mean, if you haven't read any of the High Republic, then maybe don't start there. But after that, then I think I like Emma's suggestion of do a little bit of Legends and then come back and do a little bit of IDW, because consuming all of IDW's adventures is difficult if you're an older reader. And by older, I mean anything over the age of like 18, 19, because it is clearly intended for a younger audience.
I can vouch for that. I tried it. It's a little difficult.
It's definitely an Aesop's fable sort of thing where like there's a problem and you got to solve it, and you got there's a moral behind it at the end of the story. So it's definitely geared to a younger audience. However, there are very important characters in the High Republic adventure, so I would highly recommend you read up on that so you know who all the characters are, and then then go back into some really good classic legend stuff. So all right, a little bit of a segue there. Emma, you have a little bit of you showed this in our Slack channel, and I thought this is great little comics shout out. So for those of you who don't want to see anything related to Kenobi, this is not plot spoilery. But if you don't want to see anything, then shut us down for about 60 seconds and then come back to us. But Emma, I turn it over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. When this came across my Twitter feed, I screamed. I was like, how did I not notice this? It is just perfection. Let me put it up on the screen so you know what I'm talking about. So this is Obi-Wan from today's episode. And right next to it is the comic cover from Star Wars 2015, issue number 15. Basically the same outfit.
Even down to the goggles.
Down to the goggles. Yeah. Really, the only thing that's different is the hair. I mean, he doesn't have like, the gray in his hair. But honestly, and he doesn't have the gaffy stick. But I don't even think in that issue he had a gaffy stick, if I'm being completely honest. I do want to thank at Padme Darksaber on Twitter for pointing this out. And also for this image of Obi-Wan on the TV. There's no high-res images of it yet, but I screamed when I saw it. And also people in the comments of that tweet were also pointing out how it's very reminiscent of that mythos figure from, I think it's from Sideshow, maybe.
Yes, I know which one you're talking about. That was also shared in either our Slack or Discord somewhere. But yeah, I know which one you're talking about there.
Yeah, definitely. So this was just a lot of fun. We don't talk about Kenobi or any new shows a whole lot, even though we are on Wednesdays and the new shows also take place on Wednesdays, just because we're cognizant that not everybody's able to watch it in time. But we thought that this was very important to show because it's a very direct nod to the comics, and it's just very cool to see.
Yeah.
I will give a plug. I will give a plug to Bounty Hunt, which is our podcast hosted traditionally by the Living Force hosts. So they usually go live on Sundays, where they recap the episodes from the TV shows. So you have like 4 days to catch up if you haven't seen it yet. Definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, and if you love breakdowns of stuff, like if you like our roundtables, and you like TV, that's like your show.
It's essentially what it is. Yep.
Yeah.
And this is, it's going to be a little while, but it is highly probable that we will do a show that kind of calls out all of the comic references specifically in Kenobi, because there have been a lot of imagery and story beats that were in this series that it was being pulled from somewhere in the comics. Probably I might argue it's the most comic, I don't want to call it a crossover, comic inspired media that we probably have out there, because there's a lot of imagery that I've seen on Twitter that kind of, oh, this was pulled right from the comic. Oh, this is clearly inspired by the comic. So Kenobi's done a great job of using the comics as its reference points.
Sure.
So, all right, let's go ahead and get into what we're reading. I know that the comics has kind of been trickling out for us, but that gives us a little bit of time to just start reading some other things. So Emma, you have finally finished one of the new canon books. So how did you enjoy that?
Yeah, I finally finished Brotherhood. I had preemptively put in the show notes 2 weeks ago that I finished it, and then life got busy. But I finally finished it, for real this time. And I loved it. It felt like a Clone Wars episode on steroids, like a drawn out Clone Wars episode, or a Clone Wars arc. It felt like a drawn out arc, but in a good way. That could definitely mean it was too slow or whatever. It definitely wasn't. It was very, very good. I loved seeing the Nemoidians in a little bit of a different light, and I thought that the new Padawan, Mill Alabeth, I thought she was super cool.
I loved her.
Oh, she's so great. She's so great. And and I also thought it was great to mention, because the Living Force, on Monday they started their roundtable on Brotherhood, and they're finishing it next week. And it's just great stuff. And I loved Mike Chen's writing style. I really hope we get to see him again. And I'm glad to have finished it, because on Tuesday we get a brand new Star Wars book. It's Shadow of the Sith. As a Rey fan, I am just so excited, so pumped, and also just as a sequel trilogy fan. We haven't been getting a whole lot of content anywhere, comics, books, nothing like that. So to finally get something from this era, it's just feeding my soul. So I'm very ready.
As an Ochia Bastoon fan,
yes,
I'm excited for this book.
Correct answer. We stand
as a Lando
fan.
Yes, as a Lando fan.
Ochi will steal the show. That's my prediction.
Timothy, what else have you been getting into?
So I'm mostly putting this here to help light a fire under you, Tyler.
Yes, I will have an update for that in just a moment.
I'm currently reading the X-Wing series. I'm now into the Wraith Squadron books. I think last week I mentioned that I was reading Wraith Squadron. Well, I've already blown that out of the water. So I'm now reading Iron Fist. And I think unofficially, because I'm not part of this really cool challenge that you and Jared and company are doing, but I have read 6 books in the time that y'all have started.
You are beating me then.
I am unofficially trying to up the ante. So
enter the challenge, dude.
I'm loving this.
Let's just make this a company-wide event. Let's just let's all read Legends books.
So we're saying
Legends. Let's see if Jared's still in the chat.
I was about to say, so Timothy, you're essentially the cameraman at the Olympics who has to do all the heavy lifting and hold the camera.
Correct.
Oh, look, even Justin's in the chat, reading Legends, reading Darth Plagueis. There you go.
Nice, excellent.
Jared would be very proud. Caleb, what about you? What are you reading?
Just on a lark, I found Starfighter's Crossbones, because it's the 20th anniversary of Attack of the Clones. I was looking back through at some of the games that came out, and Star Wars Jedi Starfighter is a very important game to my history here. And I didn't realize there's a kind of a 3-issue miniseries talking about some of the characters. So I read it, and it's pretty good. Like, it is a little wild because I distinctly remember like one of the main characters in there, Sol Stixa. Like, I remember him being a pretty cool, like, upstanding dude in the game. And then look, it tells his backstory. It's like, wow, he murdered a lot of innocent people. Wow, he was like actually a bad guy. Like, I didn't get that at all. Like, it was good. Like, it's like our main character Nim's a fun character whose story was never completed, but I had the feeling that the longer that the current series goes, that eventually someone will reintroduce Nim back into canon, and I'll be all about it.
And you're like, oh, I know this guy.
Exactly.
The Leonardo DiCaprio meme.
Exactly. I've seen this person before. I will be. I might even tweet about it. Probably not. I don't tweet, but you know.
Well, I've also been reading some Legends. I finished Choices of One, which is my 4th book in my race to finish. Then I got that one took me a while, which is probably the longest I've ever taken to read a Timothy Zahn book. But that's because we were talking about the stories of Jedi and Sith in our Slack, and it was taunting me sitting on my desk coming back from Celebration, and it was just like, read me. It's short stories, like you can be done with me like very quickly, and I was like, okay. And so I read that, and so I finished Choices of One, and now I'm about a third of the way through Scourge, which is book number 5. And then after this, I have a series. I think I have 4 out of the 6 Old Republic books that is on my list. So I'm going to dive into that. So I think I'm behind on number of books. I think because I think Emily's got 7.
Oh,
Jared,
wow.
I think is at like 5.5, but I've only got like 17 left. So
Nice.
I'm hoping from a completionist perspective, I get as close to the end as possible. So,
And when is like the due date for all, when is the quote unquote finish date for everybody?
technically it's the end of the year. I don't
Okay.
know if we might move that up a little bit. We might move it back because holidays can get kind of crazy.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. I mean, we're playing fast and loose with the rules already, so it's gonna be. We'll see what happens. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, check out our Legends Look Back Thursdays at 9:30, and you can hear all about it because it's connected to their show, and it's a lot of fun, and I'm really enjoying getting back into some Legends books. So.
I know that the saying goes like, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, but I feel like in this case, you win. It's not a stupid prize, because to Rick this is like the best thing, but like it's not a high stakes prize. So the lower the stakes prize,
the loser has to read at least, I think because Jared, who is beating me, he wants me to he's in the chat right now, and he says,
take note.
Please take note that I am beating Tyler. You absolutely are. He could not handle reading more than 1, but the loser has to read a Star Trek book picked by Rick Grace. So I don't know if we're doing some sort of book report on it or what, but we're at least having to read one. There should
be a roundtable on it.
Yes. Well, then that would require everyone to read it. So what's the point?
Correct.
But
we need content for April.
The saying should be changed to something like, you play a game with a low stake prize, and the rules will be loose. I don't know.
Yes.
Like if you were playing for money, the rules would be like, I got to get back into it. Shadows of the Sith worries me because I have a feeling I'm going to get distracted by that again. And it is thick. It is almost 500 pages. Yeah.
I've heard that. So hopefully I could balance both, but we'll see. Scourge is doing. I'm reading. I picked that up. What's today's Wednesday. I picked it up on Monday. I'm already more than 100 pages into it. So. All right, we've gone all long enough about non comic stuff. So let's go ahead, skip the show ad this week, and let's just go ahead and get right into our main topic tonight, which is, of course, the High Republic Edge of Balance Volume 2, written by Daniel José Older and Shima Shinya. The art is by Mizuki Sakakibara, and it was first published digitally February 22nd, 2022, and it was printed in paperback form, the one that I have, on May 24th, 2022. So we are going to go ahead. Let's go ahead and get right into the summary of it, and then we'll talk about kind of some things as we go along. But this new issue opens up on Banshee, still healing from the Drengir attack on the refugee colony. Jedi Knight Lily Tora Asi is doing her best to manage the temple, the rebuilding efforts, all of her wards, her Padawan, her younglings, some of the temple, some of the inhabitants of the town are worried about what they need to do, and are they going to be ready for, in the event that the Drengir come back or the Nihil come back. And she seems to be Lily's a little out of sorts with those around here. Kieran confronts her about it, and she admits since Master Arkov has left, she's extremely stressed about the possibility of the Nihil attacking again. Quite unexpectedly, a Jedi vector lands, and Master Sav Malagain, I'm butchering that name, appears, and she's heard about the rumors of Nihil activity in the area, and she's coming to investigate. Sav and Lily butt heads about many factors of Jedi life and what they should be doing to protect the people. While they are arguing, a bomb goes off at the bunkers, in the bunkers that the villagers were digging, prompting an investigation. So it's a good thing that Sav has shown up. Caleb, you've got the next little bit of the summary, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Exactly. So while the Jedi discover other explosives hidden throughout the bunkers in the village, they cannot determine who exactly brought them. So, lacking answers, Lily takes her younglings Nima and Visnia to Starlight Beacon to ask the masters there directly for help. While on Starlight, Lily meets with Masters Arkov and Stellangios. Together, they reassure Lily that she is capable and able to protect the temple and the settlers just with the resources she has. But while leaving Starlight, they hear that Jedi temples are being attacked across the sector. Meanwhile, back at Banshee, Keenan discovers the communicator has been sabotaged as Master Sav sees the approaching strike ships.
All right, next up, Lily roughly lands her transport in the forest and rushes back to the temple, losing track of the younglings. So she sends Kieran after them, and after having an even worse feeling in the force, sends Sav after Kieran. The younglings found the Nile, setting up some heavy weapons to target the temple, and Kieran leaps into action, attempting to drive off the Nile. But Zaret, a Nile double agent, distracts the Padawan and shoots him dead. Point blank range. It was sad. Lily, sensing the disturbance in the force, rushes to the clearing to find her dead apprentice, cradled in Sav's arms.
Oh, so depressing.
So
all right. Working through their grief, the two realize that the Nihil want something inside the temple itself. So working together, they evacuate all the colonists and destroy the temple with Nihil weaponry. As they're preparing to leave, the remaining Jedi get a call from the Jedi Council saying that Starlight has fallen, and they order all Jedi to the main temple on Coruscant. Lily, after having protected the people of Banshee, stay behind to protect the ruins and the temple, as well as Banshee itself, from the remaining Nihil.
All right. So, Caleb, you are the master of our roundtables. Do we want to get into some of the character talk here, or do we want to kind of summarize our thoughts on?
Yeah, let's take
a
quick summary of our thoughts here. So, kind of like I've alluded to it a couple times. So I feel like the second volume was definitely a improvement over the first one. Not that the first one I felt was bad, but I feel like this one had a lot more of a focused story. There's a couple twists here that I did not see coming at all. It had the story had a lot of teeth to it, for like a better term. So, Timothy, how did you feel about this? You mentioned that you in the pre-show that you kind of you can't bounce off the first volume a bit.
Yeah, so I had never read manga at all before I got to Edge of Balance. So I read the first one. I skimmed through it several months ago, I guess. But I reread the first one yesterday, and I read the second one today. And I definitely enjoyed this one more than the first. I feel like there was less kind of repetition, especially maybe because Arkov wasn't in the picture as much. Because I feel like that was like a whole Lily's having to say the thing that he just said, but you can't understand it because he's a Wookiee. So I feel like there's much less of that. but I really dug it. Yeah, there were lots of surprises, and I am very glad to have now completed officially all of my High Republic reading. So there were some really cool things that DJO also just added in, being the kind of co-author on this, that I was really happy to see some fun connections there.
Yeah, I think even when Arkov comes back, because he is featured in the last, I don't know, third or so. I feel like they handled that a lot differently. Like I definitely feel like his dialogue was more of a conversation instead of, I know that was one of our biggest drawbacks of volume 1, was it really felt like Lily or whoever was talking to Arkov was like repeating it. So I was pleasantly surprised with this. I enjoy, as much as it sounds weird to say this, I enjoy when the good guys don't escape unscathed, because it makes their eventual win that much more powerful. Like we have had to go through a trial and tribulation and to earn this win. And I definitely was very shocked when Kieran was killed. I just didn't think, I'm like, this is DJO. Like this is not like some heavy stuff here. Like you actually you got me, man.
And
like,
he's the character on the cover.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
So I was shocked in a good and sad way, because I appreciate that a story can do that and still have enough confidence to kill off a character and still continue on with the other characters without missing a beat, and really being able to deliver a really great story. So I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, I agree a lot. I honestly find, as we kind of go on, the character of Lily becomes more and more interesting to me, especially because I think in this one you can kind of see her like sort of feelings of doubt coming through a little bit more. She reminds me a lot of Vernestra in a lot of ways, just in that, she has these, I guess these are younglings and Vernestra has a Padawan, but still it's very similar. She has younglings to mentor, and she isn't sure if she's like doing the right things with them, and whether or not she's being a good teacher by doing, some things that prioritize Banshee over them. And I found that conflict to be very interesting. So, and I'm also not surprised I was drawn to a character like her, since Vernestra is my favorite High Republic Jedi. It's not shocking to me whatsoever that Lily is also, a character that I'm very interested in now. I do hope, I feel like this is a little bit different than the rest of the High Republic stuff, in that it doesn't feel super connected to the rest of the story. Like, none of the characters ever really show up. Like, I mean, except for Arkov sometimes, but we don't get like Lily showing up in one of the books, even for like a minute. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I guess it's connected in that, like, at the end, they get the report that Starlight has blown up, and that they need to all go back to Coruscant. But other than that, like, this whole series kind of feels like a separate thing, which is it's not horrible.
We do get a little bit of Stellan. I mean, at least those other characters,
Mhm.
at least those other characters come to us in the story.
That's
So
very true.
that is nice to see.
Yeah, because especially I don't think that happened in the first volume, did it, Stellan?
He made an appearance at the very beginning.
At the very beginning,
end.
okay.
Either was it a transmission, or because I don't know if it's the actual character or if it was just a conversation with the Jedi's posted there, but he does make a tiny appearance.
No, you're totally right there. I do hope that, like, in the future, because it is announced that we're getting more High Republic manga. Like, in the back of this, it says like to be
Volume
continued
3.
in Volume 3. Yep, and at the High Republic panel at Celebration, they showed some concept art of Master Arkov, specifically in Phase 2. So it shows that we're going back in time with him.
So maybe Padawan
which is interesting.
Arkov.
Yeah, Padawan
And
Arkov.
somebody else, Emma, and Timothy, you were sitting with us too.
Yeah.
In the High Republic panel, Christina Ariel had asked the group who is a character that is underrated / you shouldn't sleep on, and
Mhm.
was it was it Justina Ireland who said Arkov? Somebody said Arkov. I don't remember if it was
Yeah.
DJO or Justina Ireland, but one of them had said, "Don't sleep on Arkov. You're going to see a lot. You're going to be seeing a lot more of him." So that was something that was
I
exciting.
remember hearing that and going, "Oh, I definitely was going to sleep on that."
Yes. Oh, Justin makes a great point in the chat. There was also the Rumble race from the High Republic Adventures in this book.
Yes.
And I totally forgot about that too. I mean, because we run into. I guess I'll like amend my statement now that we're getting like all these examples, because you guys are right. Like there's a lot of connections like in this book, but in terms of like other books and other comics, we don't get like Edge of Balance stuff in those, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was
But that's
surprised
not a bad thing though. I'm not saying
I was
that
surprised
it's like
that Lily made the cover of the big poster of Starlight being
I
on
was
fire.
surprised
And
too.
I was like, that's as close as she's probably been to any of these other folks.
Yeah.
So
I was confused, like, was she Stellan's Padawan at one point? Because they seem very close.
Well, she was Arkov's Padawan, but I think there was like in the very beginning that she worked with Stellan a couple times, so I think there's some sort of connection there.
I see. Yeah, it's so funny you mentioned that too, because like, I mean, as much as I think she's an interesting character, I was like, huh, she made the cover. Interesting.
Yep.
Like
this definitely,
really?
I see your point in that when prior to reading this, if I was to talk to people about the High Republic and where they should start, what they should, Edge of Balance Volume 1 is almost I'm sorry, DJO, is almost an afterthought because it is so disconnected.
Well, remember, Volume 1 was actually written by Ireland, Justina Ireland.
Oh, that's right. That's
mentioned, yeah.
Which would explain why I feel like it was Justina who said, "Don't sleep on Arkov." So, but
she's the one who first made it.
Yeah. Now that you're mentioning it, like I'm totally blanking on who said who. I keep talking. I have a script from an old video that lists all the characters that they mention. So I'm gonna see which one sounds more like DJO, which one sounds more like Justina.
All right. Well, Kayla, why don't we go ahead then and get into our character discussions?
Exactly. So let's start with the count at the top and work ourselves around. So let's start with Lily, Lily Toraasi. She's kind of like the main character of this entire story. We've definitely seen some like growth and some failing here. Pretty early on, like she gets told by we last time we did the Volume 1, it definitely seemed like there's a different relationship she had with her Padawan. Like it almost seemed like she was teaching her things more. Did we still see a continuation of that here, do you think?
I think that it becomes more of a two-way street here. And I think that there is definitely some growth from the end of episode issue Volume 1 and into this book by a lot of the characters, and Lily included.
Yeah, Kieran makes a comment at some point. He's like, "I know that you're watching me, but just as much I am watching you." And that was an interesting point to call out of like, I see how you like have conversations with Arkov and with some of the other folks around. And it was interesting that he almost kind of put himself on an equal playing field there. And which I think we may have always kind of been like, and for me approaching the manga anyways, it seems like everyone is de-aged a bit. So I think everyone's pretty close to a level playing field. And whenever I was like, oh, the reading Volume 1, I was like, Lily has a Padawan? Interesting. But now it makes sense. So
exactly. Speaking of her like growing and changing, pretty early on we get a scene with her and Sav. I'm just going to say her last name is Malagain. Guess that sounds kind of fun and Irish there. So Sav Malagain, Malagain tells her to be more like water. How would you guys translate that? What do you think that means to you? Like when a Jedi tells you to be more like water, less like stone.
I would translate that as like being more flexible, like not. This quote really like spoke to me actually a lot as somebody that's like just somebody that overthinks things, somebody that overplans. It very much like, to me, I kind of read that as like, don't plan too much to the point that when something else goes wrong, your plan is the thing that breaks you. So in my mind, that means like go with the flow, and literally like the flow of water, I guess.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think the only thing that I would add to that is, as you have to adjust entirely. You know, as don't be a don't be a stone. Be able to be permeable and adjust. But when you need to make that adjustment, commit 100% to that adjustment and move forward with that. But Emma, I think that's how I was interpreting it as well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There, because in this particular volume, we see her trying to take Arkov's point of view, like as gospel, essentially, as I am only going to do this. And then when Sav comes in with a different opinion, then she goes to whatever Sav is trying to say. And yeah, it's very much, you don't have to be one or the other. Be a little bit more like Qui-Gon, play around a little bit between the rules, and really kind of figure out what is what before you kind of stake your claim to an opinion or an idea.
And I really enjoyed that being a conflict, because that was a very significant conflict in the first third of this book, and I enjoyed that being a conflict without it being a traditional conflict. Like there's clearly not any animosity there, but she is having a very hard time adjusting to this and understanding this, and to see her really, especially through Kieran, be able to identify and I recognize, yes, this is a problem for me, and kind of go through that. It was something that I enjoyed, as I read this book.
It's not often you see like Jedi like butt heads about like
right,
literally like the way they should be doing things. Usually,
unless you're Qui-Gon.
It was more like an intellectual conflict rather than like a physical conflict, I guess you could kind of put it. And also, before we move on, I think I have an answer to the whole, like, was it Justina? Was it Daniel? I remember suddenly, because on this list, I didn't put, I'm missing the name all of a sudden. Arkov. I didn't put Arkov on the list, and I remember why. I remember that DJO had a 2-part answer to this. First part of his answer was Comac Vitus.
Okay.
And the second part of his answer was Arkov, because I remember Justina said Bel Zettifar. And I remember that's because she loves Ember, and she was talking about how much she loved Ember. So I remember that was Justina. So that semi clears up that question that we all had.
Love it.
Perfect. So at the end, to get back to Lily here for a little bit, for a lot, but at the very end of the story, the Jedi are being directly told by the council that they have to leave and return to Coruscant, but she decides to stay behind. This kind of puts her in a unique position. Do you think it was do you think it's smart that she tries to just protect these ruins of the Jedi temple? And do you think that isolating herself from her fellow Jedi is a good idea right now?
I actually had a major problem with this, because I don't see... Well, I see problem. I can poke holes in everybody's sort of thinking here. Number one, did you actually think that destroying the temple would destroy the artifact? No, that's not how that works. You just dig up the rubble and then you find the thing. Like, I mean, that's not how that works. That's never how that works. Second of all, is she just gonna like protect it for the rest of her life? What would be more efficient is if she looked through the ruins herself to find the thing that they were looking for, or just like find every single like artifact or thing of importance and then bring it back to the Jedi and then kind of resume her normal life. Like, she doesn't need to let this take over her whole life. I think that there's like different ways to go about it, maybe. I don't know.
I think my only counter argument to that is it shows that she is no longer having a conflict of strategy or what she needs to do, and what Sav's Zen-like commentary about water is. It's showing it. I took that as, because I agree with you from a logic perspective, is that really the best strategy? Probably not, but it is showing to me that she has the confidence in herself that, you know what, I'm going to be here. Like,
Yeah.
and if they need something here and something is important to them here, they're going to have to go through me. And I am ready to be a Jedi and to do what a Jedi does to protect this planet, this artifact, this part of the galaxy. So I took that as a real character moment for her to be able to say, I'm confident in my abilities now, that I can stand up to the Nihil.
Yeah, I can see that too.
Exactly. I don't know if she knows exactly what the Nihil are looking for, and I think
That's the other
probably,
part. Yeah.
like, just nuke it all and we'll figure out like how desperately they wanted to see, because at the very end it almost looked like the eye himself was showing up on Banshee to like look around there. So I don't know, we'll see what happens in volume 3, but we'll touch on that later on. So do you think isolating herself from the other Jedi is a good idea now? Knowing what we know about the levelers, that's a terrible idea, being a Jedi by yourself at this moment.
Mhm.
Absolutely worst idea. But then again, Mayday wouldn't bother sending one of their valuable hunty beasts after just one.
True. Yeah, I could see this like going either way. I mean, this might even lead to something like maybe she becomes I always get this mixed up. Wayseeker.
Days?
Oh,
Wayseeker.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
Wayseeker. Yeah, okay. I always get it mixed up with the Wayfinder thing from the
Mhm.
Rise of Skywalker. Yeah, I could see that leading to her like becoming more independent, but I could also see it as maybe she becomes like an easy target. I feel like if anything, like if I had to make her a life plan going forward, I would say like just like grab all the artifacts you can find, girl, and just get out of there. Like,
There's got to be a data pad somewhere with a list,
Yeah.
right? And then you check everything against the list,
Yes.
what you can find, and then you go, oh, this thing is probably important.
I mean, Lily, like in the beginning, she was, in such conflict because she's such a classic over planner. You'd think that she has like an inventory somewhere.
Yep. I guess we'll find out.
We'll
Yeah.
find out.
That's
But-
what Volume
but
3 is going to be all about. It's just going to be her digging through the rubble.
Exactly. But speaking of someone who's not going to be in volume 3,
Aww.
You got.
yeah, Padawan Kieran Finan. In the previous volume, we felt like we've already touched on this a little bit, but it felt like he was kind of the responsible one of the between him and his master. I feel like, as we touched on, like this trend has kind of continued. It's a little bit more of a two-way street here, but he definitely seems to be kind of like the goody two-shoes of the whole operation, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. It kind of felt like a Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon dynamic a little bit in that Lily sometimes seemed like the irresponsible one, the one that didn't necessarily want to follow all the rules, whereas Kieran like was definitely more of a rule follower. I think I kind of like how their relationship was though, because you can tell that they weren't very far off in age. Whether or not
Mhm.
they were like aged up or down in the manga format, I think like either way they were pretty close in age, kind of similar to like Vernestra,
Vern and Emery.
yeah, and Imri.
Yep.
So I'm kind of glad that it wasn't a super like I guess respectful relationship isn't like the best phrase for it, because I always feel like he was respectful towards her, but not necessarily like a hierarchy, of relationship.
It always, this is going to be a weird analogy, but it always struck me as like he was the 16-year-old to his single mom who raised him the entire time, of like, he's been more responsible for a longer time, he feels like, and needs all the respect that he's due.
Yeah, he
I can-
matured
yeah.
faster than the other kids.
Yeah, I
He's
can.
like, yeah.
I see that. I mean, I think I've said this before. I think the current Padawans / newly anointed knights are going to be the most important people
Mhm.
at the end of the High Republic.
Mhm.
And it's a shame that obviously he's not going to be one of those people, but it's the lessons and how this group of people are being portrayed that I think is really going to be the focal point of the main story lesson that we're going to get from the High Republic is this coming of age and this being independent and this, just because you are a student doesn't mean that your teachers can't learn from you and that you can't be your own person. I really think that that's going to be one of the telling points of this entire saga, and I think that he fits into that same mold just like Bell Zettifar, in his own way. So he was one of my favorite characters coming from volume 1, and so it's a shame that he won't be in volume 3.
I know we'll get to them in a little bit, but I think something that helped with his maturity was having the younglings around, which seemed very different to me, just to have younglings kind of running around on this world, not being so tied to Starlight or Coruscant or anything like that. So he had to take on more responsibility, and I could see where towards the end he kind of jumped the gun on it, but I did like seeing that dynamic, because while Lily was going through so much and wrestling with so much in her head, it gave him an opportunity to go, well, someone has to look out for these these kids, and I guess it's me, and I'm going to try to prove myself. And so that was very believable, I think.
So let us, to close the chapter on this, to say his death was completely unexpected. I remember, when I was reading it for the very first time, oh, she has a bad feeling about it. It's like, oh no, he's going to get captured or something else bad is going to happen, but she'll resolve it. And then a few page turns later, it's like, the blaster shot rang out. Oh, but Sav was there, so he's safe. Oh yeah. Wait, no, he's not.
Oh, he has a hole in his hat.
Oh no.
Oh no.
He's oh wait, are we already volume 2? Oh shit. We killed him so quick, maybe not quick in the grand scheme of things, but it was wow, he's gone so quickly like that. It was kind of a bit of a gut punch, and maybe we had to stop and renegotiate this entire series up to this point. Okay, so is this what we've been leading to? Wow, I did not see that coming.
I definitely did not see that coming. If anything, I thought it was gonna be Lily that bit the dust first. Because you kind of think that everybody's gonna make it out of Banshee, because with the whole Starlight Beacon thing having happened, and you kind of think that that's enough death for now. And then we got to add more death to the mix because pain, and it's just sad to me. It's just sad because he was trying to take on the responsibility that Lily wasn't able to take on just because of her circumstances. Not that it was her fault or anything, but it was just depressing. And honestly, it was totally shocking to me. I didn't expect anyone to die. If anyone, some sort of a minor character, not one of the main characters. It was completely shocking.
So yeah. I was going to make a joke here, but I saw Justin's comment in the chat, and I thought that was much more appropriate. We often see Jedi lose masters, but we hardly see masters lose apprentices, and that's a really key observation there, that it's not often that we see the child figure in the relationship, whether it's there that age or not, succumb to anything that tragic. So it was that is a much better comment than what I was originally going to have, because I was going to poke tongue in cheek about this situation, but we'll say that for maybe another time later, if the timing feels more appropriate.
Yeah, that's a very smart comment. I didn't even think of that.
I was about to say, the only thing he mentions one from, I think, Master and Apprentice. The only other thing I can think of is technically Obi-Wan losing Anakin, but I said, that's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, and even that isn't
he was a knight at that. Yeah, he
exactly.
was a knight, and he had been a knight for a while. So as much as those two are very close to each other, you could make the argument that the master apprentice, master Padawan sort of relationship had kind of run its course, and they had a different relationship at that time.
Absolutely. So let's keep this train going, and let's move on to the younglings. I put them together, Nima and Vivnia. They're always together, so I'm not going to ask us to try to remember which one is which, or to stink them out. But I do think that there's something to build off of what you said of the Padawans and the young knights coming into the their being at this point. What about them? What about the younglings? They're growing up in a time of great uncertainty amongst the Jedi. How do you think the events that they are seeing literally unfolding in front of their eyes will shape them when they're fully fledged Jedi Knights?
I think Tyler alluded to it a little bit. I think it'll be interesting to see them kind of take shape and be some leaders down the line. I do think it's interesting that we do get their perspective, because we haven't gotten a lot of that from like Order 66 for, comparison. I think like what they're going through now is that kind of caliber, and in terms of their age and what they could experience. And we haven't seen that yet. So I'm excited to see how they develop, and whether or not it gives them a more, especially watching Lily struggle and wrestle, they were very present for all of that. So it'll be interesting to see if they take one side or another that she was kind of wrestling with, or if they do kind of go with the flow. Because right now the Jedi are becoming way more militaristic. And so if they come up under that idea, that's going to be a change of the order, especially as we get, closer to episode 1 and how the Jedi change. I wonder if they could be on the front end of some of that.
I was about to say, we know by the time that episode 1 rolls around, the Jedi are a lot more insular, for lack of a better term, a lot more pragmatic. So it wouldn't be surprising if like Nemo, when they grow up and become Jedi Knights, are like, no, we're not going to be having tiny little outposts all over the world. We're not going to be spreading ourselves so thin. Like that is incredibly dangerous and risky for us. Like they grew up like having their home bombarded by Nihil Raiders and attacked by sentient plants.
I would go so far as
going to mess someone up.
Yeah.
I would go so far as to say the masters are failing them and will not be able to prepare them because it's a time of peace. They don't know. Their strategy is outreach and expansion, and let's spread our influence and our awareness to the Outer Rim. But we've seen it in the comics, we've seen it in the novels. When it comes to how do we approach this aggressive force head on, they don't have a solution, at least not one that everybody can agree upon. Stellan has his opinion, Avar has her opinion, Elzar has his own opinion, and their lack of a central and unified voice is going to fail this group of younglings and Padawans, which is going to force them, from my perspective, to be able to step in and say, you know what, fine, if y'all aren't going to be able to, the ones that are going to save us, we're going to have to save ourselves.
Yeah, I agree. And also, they kind of have a unique experience to other Padawans. Like, I feel like just comparatively, it doesn't seem like that many Padawans get to spend they're younglings. Younglings. I feel like not many younglings get to spend their formative years outside of like a Jedi temple. Like they're out like in the field basically, even though they're not in like wartime or anything like that, like we saw in the Clone Wars. They're still in danger, like with the Drengir, and they're just kind of like let loose out into the woods all the time. Like they're not like supervised hardly ever. And I feel like they definitely have a unique experience to others. And, I can't remember who pointed it out earlier. Like, I'm pretty sure it was Tyler. Like, yeah, when they get to make the decisions, they're not going to be letting any younglings, be spending time on a random outpost, like, because they've learned better. And I guess that's the only way you can make change, right? Is to, experience something outside the norm, realize it's bad, and then, you become the person making the decisions, and then decide that it's wrong. So I guess that's the only way it can happen, which I guess is a good lesson. And the High Republic, I think, teaches us a lot of good lessons.
Exactly. And that kind of bleeds into the next discussion person we want to talk about, Sav Malagain. This is I'm just going to go ahead and pull like the covers off and get real deep into this real quick. We see her first into High Republic adventures as has a outpost on
Takodana.
Yeah. Do you think part of the reason she didn't have any Padawans or apprentices or younglings at her temple is because the Jedi Council does not trust her with training people because of her kind of unorthodox and strange ways.
I don't know if trust is the right word. I would go so far as to say, is there politicking involved in the decision to give, not award Sav an apprentice or a Padawan? I think I would not be surprised if there was some politicking.
Like, oh, Saf, you're so good at not following our orders and parking your speeder everywhere and pissing us all off. Like, congratulations, you've been rewarded with this outpost in the middle of nowhere. You can handle it by yourself.
Well, I also wonder, I don't know that it's a requirement, right? That
That's
masters
true.
pick up Padawans. So it also could very much be I know this isn't for me and that it probably wouldn't go well. So I'm going to go and do my thing on the pirate planet, essentially. And that kind of makes sense to me anyways. I don't know. It'd be interesting. I don't know that we know how old Sav is either. So it'd be interesting if maybe there was one in the past, or I don't know.
I'm not gonna lie, it didn't really even cross my mind that she didn't have a Padawan.
Mine either.
I didn't really notice. I was like, oh yeah, she definitely doesn't seem like the type of person that would have one. Like, she just kind of seems like a free spirit, and
like she's the wine aunt of the Jedi masters.
I mean, I guess. Yeah, I mean, to me it kind of makes sense. Like, if you're not I don't have a great analogy for this. Like, if you're not a dog person, don't get a dog. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're not you know what I mean? Like, if you're not a kid person, maybe don't teach them how to become a person. Just because that might not go well. I don't know. So maybe she's smarter than everybody else. Instead of feeling like it's some sort of an obligation, rather than fulfilling that so-called obligation, just sort of, letting things live.
There are some people who are good at, and I'm leading into this comment,
cool. Okay.
Tim. I saw there are some people who like to be the parents. There are some people that like to be the uncles and the aunts and uncles, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I love that.
Exactly.
And honestly, I respect her for that. Like don't force yourself to do something that you don't feel you're suited for. I think that's totally okay.
Exactly. Like, I hope we get, I don't know how long her race lives, but I hope we get to see a young, even more impetuous and more young, off the hip sort of firing version of her in phase 2.
That'd be very cool.
And I think that's the thing that like is awesome, but weird at the same time. Like we know who these characters are. And it's like, hey, you think you do, but now let's flip the script and let's go back 150 years and let's see them in a, like, we've never, I guess we kind of, no, we don't really see.
Not this long of time anyway.
Right. Like we don't do that. Like the only other time that we've sort of done that was the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy. But those, other than Obi-Wan, there's not really a lot of carryover in the characters. So it's like it's its own, it's a very unique situation.
Yep. Okay, so well, that is a very unique sort of thing. So let's start moving on to some more overarching discussion questions here. As I mentioned earlier, the very first, both of these volumes were written by Shinya, but the first one was co-authored with Justina Ireland, and this one was co-authored by Daniel José Older. Did we notice a difference between the volumes with the co-author changing?
The only thing that immediately jumps out to me is that we got all of his tie-ins.
Yeah, like
yes.
I'll call the middle part is the cameo part.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's the cameo part there.
It definitely felt more grounded in other High Republic stuff. Like, I haven't read the first volume in a while, but if I'm remembering things correctly, it wasn't as, I guess, in touch with other High Republic events as this one was. And the other thing I would say, like, I know earlier in the show, Timothy pointed out just about like the whole Arkoff thing, like just the better writing. And believe me, I've said on the show multiple times that Justina Ireland is one of my favorite authors of all time. So this is like no disrespect to her. But it definitely, I think the Wookiee situation was written better in this version.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it wasn't as big of a part, granted, in because in the first volume it was very much more prevalent than in this one. So there's that too.
Absolutely. So quick lightning round, just off the tip of your tongue, what do you think the Nihil are looking for on this planet? They didn't say anything. They just said an artifact. Like, just one thing. What do you think it is?
Oh God, this is hard.
I think I'm going to go first and take this off the board. I think it is a way to enhance the leveler. I mean, the leveler seems to be very powerful, but in a very controlled way. I wouldn't be surprised if this is something, and I have no proof. There's no reason for me to think this other than from a strategic point of view. I think they're looking a way to widen the effects of the leveler.
That's a good answer. Maybe some sort of like Jedi weapon. Like, how in the Siege of Mandalore there's like this thing that they kept Maul in, and it like didn't allow him to use the Force. Maybe it was something like that, something that like dampened their Force ability so that they couldn't fight them as well. Something to make them weak.
Yeah.
Other than the leveler, of course, because that inherently makes them weak. But
this is only because for some reason talking about Justina Ireland has made me remember Spark of the Resistance, and the little Banshee creatures remind me so much of the little things from that story, like the little characters or whatever. So I'm wondering if there's some like mind control device somewhere hidden in the temple or something like that gets them to do something crazy. That's very out there, probably not at all realistic, but for some reason I want to connect those stories together.
I want to connect them too. Let's do it.
My gut thing is I think it's something that's going to tie into phase 2. I think there's something that happens in phase 2 that the Jedi are responsible for, and part of like the only thing that is like left over from it, like some sort of shameful secret, has been put in the temple. I like there. So that's what he's going there for, like PR relations. The eye wants this like this file or this record that he will show to the galaxy that, hey, the Jedi have done everything in their can to hide this massive failure from you, and look how bad they are.
I like that. I like how you're tying it into the next phase. I think I would like to see that.
And especially where, this is kind of like one of the last things that they've made in phase 1. You would think that it'd be likely that'd be tied into phase 2. Also, y'all, I totally forgot that I pulled like 24 images and I haven't been showing them this whole show. So let's start
lightning
now.
round.
Lightning round.
I'm gonna make them go really fast.
Okay, so as we get to the end of this thing, let's move on to where do we think it's going. So we left this story in a kind of a very dark place, as all of phase 1 kind of ended, but this one was maybe even a darker than most. When we return to volume 3, do you think it'll be right where we left off? Will there be a time skip? And do you think we'll have to wait until phase 3 before we get volume 3?
That is a great question.
Well, I think that the panel from Celebration confirmed that we won't have to wait until phase 3 to get more manga, at least. I don't know if it'll be Edge of Balance specifically, but seeing how there's Master Arkoff, you kind of think that it would be. I bet we're going to go back in time. I bet it's going to kind of be like everything else. Like maybe some sort of even though it says volume 3 in the back of the book, part of me feels like maybe it'll be a reboot of some sort, kind of like how they're doing the High Republic, the Marvel series, and the High Republic Adventures is we're not sure what's going to happen because of the whole Dark Horse thing, but they're kind of restarting it by kind of like how they do the Star Wars mainline, right? Like they just start with a new year or whatever. I feel like they might go that way, maybe do another 2 volumes for phase 2. I think it's also hard to know, like, did it sell well? If it sold well, I would say like, yeah, it's definite for phase 2, but I would hope that it'd be there for phase 2. I would be looking forward to that.
I think it would be a weird choice if they which I mean, it's fine if they decide to, but it'd be a weird choice if they continued this story through phase 2 without reverting it to 150 years. It's possible, I guess, because it's so infrequent. And then it might be
Justin
able to,
just said in the chat, it could be a flashback.
that would be cool.
Yeah, I would like that.
Kind of like a framing device or something like that. That could be cool.
That'd be really cool. That would actually be cool, like applied to the entire phase 2. Like honestly.
Yeah, I mean, because we've seen that in the comics, where you have you have usually in these miniseries where you have a current story, but after the first 6 pages, it's all in the past, and then it goes to the next issue, and then it does. So I think I wonder if Justin's onto something there by saying like volume 3 is going to be in the present, but a large percentage of volume 3 is going to be some flashback from probably not from Arkhov, because that could be weird to have him be a narrator in that. But yeah, I think that he might be onto something with that's how this is going to be set up. Because I don't want to have to wait to volume 3. Like volume 1 was a little subpar, but this having to wait to get a resolution of this till volume 3 would be really disappointing.
Imagine if they just made Arkhov like speak basic all of a sudden.
Or that, or we've already we're pushing sort of things of like a manga adaptation. Why not the first fully Sheerwook Star Wars novel, Star Wars comic?
It'd be something.
All right, so let's land this speeder. Hopefully better than Lily did, but let's put this speeder down and let's talk about our final ratings. Again, we're no longer doing numeric ratings, we're doing tier ratings. So we're going to go around, talk about list. Just start with what you're rating it, and then you can compound that a little later. So who wants to start?
I can start.
All right, Emma, go.
Let's see. So we have the top 3 is good, incredible, masterpiece, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna give it an incredible. I really enjoyed it. I thought the story was well done. I liked it better than the first volume. Again, no shade to my girl, Justina, but I think it just tied into other parts of the High Republic a bit more. I think seeing Lily branch out a little bit more was cool. Again, the unexpected twist with Kieran passing was interesting to me, and I just found this, kind of hooked me in a little bit more. And I have a good feeling about where these characters are going to go in the future. Like, I have a better feeling than I did after the first one that these characters might appear elsewhere, I guess is kind of my feeling about it, especially because they've got some roster spots to fill after the Fallen Star. So
true story.
Yeah,
had to hurt me like that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, just the nonchalant way that you said that was just that was painful.
Took a little bit for you to calculate. That's okay. Yeah, I'm pleased with this one. I think more than I was the first one. I was a little underwhelmed by the first one, but I think that they're starting to build on what they've started. And sometimes things just take a little bit to get going, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think if on this rating scale, I would probably rate volume 1 a good, and I would I'm rating this one an incredible, because the story's faster. There's higher stakes. There's a lot of the scene has already been set, so there isn't a lot of world building here because you already know since it's volume 2. I think the main thing for me that keeps this from being a masterpiece is, and it's probably unfair of me to say this, but if I take a step back and look at the whole High Republic, as Emma alluded to at the beginning of the show, it's still kind of over here, and it doesn't tie in yet to the rest of the High Republic, so it's hard for me to rate this as a masterpiece, but then have somebody come back and say, oh well, that means I should read this alongside or in front of other parts of the High Republic, and I'm like, well, probably not. So for that reason, what fair or unfair, I probably have to leave this as incredible.
Yeah, I am also going to go the incredible route. For me, approaching manga for the first time ever, it was fascinating and a new experience. But I feel like by the time I got to this story, I saw the potential and why they did this. And one of the standouts for me about volume 2, honestly, was the art was just next level for me. I loved the shading. I mean, getting to see No Space, getting to see the upfront look at Marchandro's helmet, just the way that they were able to communicate. There was one of the I just lost the Jedi ship name.
The Vector.
The Vector, and you see the shadows underneath it. Like, it was so well done. So it took me a little bit to adjust to the whole black and white thing, but I'm a big fan, really dig it. And yeah, this story, it was definitely heavier. And I think Kieran's death was the biggest immediate shock that I got from reading the High Republic so far, just because it's a page turn and he's got a hole in his chest. I'm like, what in the world just happened? And that, like every other death that we've seen, there's been a slow build to it. You know, something's going to happen, and yeah, here you think everything's going to be fine, and then it's not. And I really appreciated that kind of storytelling in this particular medium. So big fan.
Exactly. Yeah. I practiced it beforehand, but Sakakibara's art is amazing on this in this volume. I hope we keep to see more and more of their work here, and I think I'm going to have to give it an incredible as well. Now, pretty much for all the reasons, just see what everyone else said. But I will say this: one thing I think I appreciate about this volume, to counter Tyler's stance, is how much it stands alone. And I've said this before. I think, when we're going back through and rereading the High Republic, like years from now, it's going to be a bit of a weird sort of thing to keep putting things down and picking things back up. I kind of like how, listen, like I could give someone these 2 volumes and say, read this, and this is kind of a good snippet of what you're going to expect from the High Republic. Maybe you won't get all the sort of things, but like the themes that are present in the High Republic, like a evolution of the Jedi, seeing them as heroes, kind of unexpected threats, nihil attacks, terror, how do we stand up in the face of like literal just chaos like this is being represented in these volumes like really well. So when someone says, what's the High Republic and can I get a taste of it, these 200 pages of premium black and white art, it's the way to go.
All right, so we've got a pure incredible from our hosts, and yeah, I think that we did a pretty good job of summarizing how this book is. So, all right, before we get out of here tonight, Emma, why don't you go ahead and let everybody know what is coming up on our show and our sister shows this week?
Yeah, absolutely. So, this is not like an official Youtini crossover or anything, but I am calling this Roundtable Week because, unbeknownst to everyone, we've all done a roundtable this week, or are going to do a roundtable this week. Because tomorrow, Legends Look Back is doing Darth Bane, Dynasty of Evil, their second part of that roundtable. So that makes 3 in a row roundtables for everybody. So great job, everyone. Anyways, next week for us, we are doing a Greg Pak writer spotlight, which is going to be a lot of fun. It's been a little bit since we've done a writer or artist spotlight, so that'll be a lot of fun. And I think Greg Pak's work is going to be, especially important with Shadow of the Sith coming out and the Ochi stuff. So really excited to talk about him. And then next week on The Living Force, on Monday, that's going to be the second part of the Brotherhood Roundtable. So yeah, that'll be really good. I'm really excited to listen to more of that going forward. I was trying to think of a way to make another joke about, all the roundtables we're doing. It didn't come to me. That's okay. Anyways, enjoy all of our roundtables. I hope you like that format because you are getting fed this week.
We have all had the joke in the head, but by the time it gets from the head to the mouth,
Yeah.
it just disappears. It just
Gone.
goes off.
Flew
And
away.
yeah, so
It's gone just like Kieran. Ah.
yeah. Oh, all
Oof.
right. There we go.
On
You know what? On that
note.
note, I think we're gonna wrap up tonight, and that is gonna do it for this week's episode of The Cosmic Force. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the show right here on YouTube, where you can hear us live every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. We also encourage you to subscribe to our audio version on whatever podcast platform you listen to. You can also follow us on Twitter and tweet at the show at Cosmic Force Show. Stay informed about Star Wars comics happenings, or follow the host individually. I'm at Ty Rags, Emma is at Irma Jedi 26, Caleb is at Caleb Lamanek, and Timothy is at TC Guthrie 2. For reviews, articles, and news for the rest of the expanded universe, be sure to visit Youtini.com. We also encourage you to join our Youtini Discord community by going to Youtini.com/Discord. And you can also help support the show by heading to Patreon.com/Youtini to start receiving exclusive perks starting at just $5 a month. A special thank you to Brian Dooley, Earl Q, Patrick Ortiz, and Carl Sander on our Jedi High Council, as well as Matt Billington, Elizabeth Cloutier, Freddie C., and Sally and Chris Eilerson on our Alliance High Command. Thanks again to Emma, Caleb, and Timothy for hosting with me tonight. A special thank you to those of you who joined us in the chat, and an extra special thank you to those of us who were listening to our audio podcast wherever and whenever you are listening to us. We truly appreciate your support. We hope to see everybody next week, but until then, may the Force be with you.